Hello guys, is it recording? Yes, it started. Okay guys, hello. I'm glad to be here with you because we are going to start a series of videos where we will talk about a great topic. This is something that I have been studying with uh, in the class of ethics or in ethics class with uh, Lucero, which is my teacher, and is let me see because let me see. Give me a sec. Give me a sec because I'm looking for the pronunciation of a how is it pronounced?
PhD,
PhD.
PhD.
Okay, so that's the title. It's a PhD. PhD. She is a who is Lucero? I think that for the next video I will introduce who is my teacher Lucero, who is a PhD. Um, she is a let's do it right now. But I have the I have the syllabus um, in which I can tell you more about her. Okay, let me tell you, or let me go to this. Okay, translating into English this profile. Okay, so she has published approximately 45 specialized articles in international philosophy and theology journals, among which the following stand out. She has a lot of publications at La Salle University, and she has also published some articles on theologian magazines, and it's so interesting for me that we have the chance or the opportunity to talk about his latest work. I don't know if it will be published later, but she has published in Revista de Filosofía, Universidad Iberoamericana here in Mexico. She has Revista Iberoamericana de Teología, Revista de Filosofía y Estudios de Filosofía y Letras. She has published a lot, and she is the author of some. Let me tell you, she is the author. Okay, is Lucero Gonzalez. She holds a bachelor's degree and doctorate in philosophy from UNAM, all with honors. She completed his doctoral research stay at the Pontificia University of Comillas in Madrid, and she also pursued postdoctoral studies in philosophy at Universidad Iberoamericana. She also holds a master's in missiology from in missi Missiology from Universidad Intercontinental with honors. Also, she has been a member of the National System of Researchers since 2018 and currently holding a CIN1 designation. Her philosophical research interests include phenomenology, ontology, theodicy, medieval philosophy, aesthetics, philosophy of education, philosophy of religion, and social philosophy. Her theological research focuses on spiritual theology, biblical theology, and mystical theology. And now she is a member of the Research Development and Innovation Group at Universidad La Salle in Mexico. So she also has published um, 6 books related about music and phenomenological method, all about theology, and hermeneutical method, and many things. And we will talk about this last work that we will publish soon, and it is called Discrimination Against Indigenous People, Afro-descendant individuals, and Latin American migrants in Mexico. I will start by reading this introduction and then I will comment something to make it clear. So let's get started. Okay, so simply by being part of a specific social group, any individual holds a series of prejudices that shape our daily life and define our relationship with nature. That's totally true. I will highlight the verbs because for me the verbs are just like the core of each sentence. Okay, these prejudices can either contribute to or hinder the ability to recognize that every person without exception possesses dignity. Therefore, they must be subjected to critical examination. For if they are not, whether indirectly or fully consciously, they may give rise to attitudes, actions, and moral and political discourses that encourage discrimination, rejection, and social exclusion, and even violence. What does it mean? It means like whether where you are part whether you are part of a social group or you think you're not, you you hold some serious you host a series of prejudices that shape your life. A lot of people are not aware of this. When you think you are unique or you think you are not wrong, you don't have any prejudices because you are progressist at this time. So let me tell you that you are holding some prejudice. Why? Because we are part of a society that doesn't that hasn't been developed as a critical and intercultural society, a, that can be able to that will be able to modify its structure, its foundation of knowledge. It's interesting here this thesis all about discrimination. Discrimination is a social phenomenon with negative repercussions for both those who suffer from it and those who perpetrate it. Interesting. Those who are victims of discrimination have limited access to the resources necessary for self-preservation and overall well-being. Yeah, exactly. So, what are the repercussions of a social discrimination it is it is a negative repercussion for both those who suffer from it and those who perpetrate it. Also, these these people who are victims of discrimination, they have limited access to the resources necessary for self-preservation. They are in danger because they don't have any protection. They are wandered, and no one is no one can help them. No one have the intention to help them, and also for their overall well-being, which is something that a great or international institutions are trying to take care of. When a person is homeless, when a person is vulnerable, it means that they are not they are not being taken, they are not being cares of. Now, this ultimately is a direct result of not being recognized as human beings. It's a strong, uh, this is a strong claim. This is a direct result of not being recognized as human beings with equal dignity. And you can say, yes, a lot of people say we are equals, but on the other hand, when you hear some news, when you hear the news, there's a lot of advertising, there's a lot of messages against Mexicans, against black people, against many minority groups in in the great social structure. On the other hand, discrimination also affects those who practice it, as it prevents them as it prevents them from discovering that humanity is expressed um, in multiple forms. So it's important, okay? What are the negative repercussions of the social discrimination that either you do it or you perpetrate it? We have two kind of people. We have two kind of individuals. If you discriminate, if you angrily and you consciously discriminate people, it prevents you from discovering that humanity is expressed in multiple forms, and you can only see everything through your unique vision. So it is not it is a lack. This is a prejudice that that block you people from appreciating the unique richness of diverse worldviews. There's a lot of worldviews. There's a lot of worldviews over the world, and you think they are wrong, you are right, and you this prevents from recognizing. This prevents you from recognizing that there is a range of worlds and cultural possibilities, and not only one. And you can say, why do I want to know more about them? Why do I want to know about them? My world is unique. My world is full of comprehension. My world is right. Mm. You might think that that the best of humanity. How would you know? How would you know if your unique point of view and your unique worldview is right, is unique? How would you know that? You are not sure. Here in Mexico, according to the National Survey of Discrimination conducted by INEGI, and without considering intersectionality, the groups that stand out, are as historically and structurally discriminated are indigenous people, Afro-Mexicans, and migrants. Okay, according to INEGI, to the National Survey of Discrimination ENADIS in Mexico, made in 2022, uh, they there are groups, there are many groups, and three stand out as historically as the structural discrimination in both historically and structurally as discrimination. They are indigenous people, Afro-Mexicans, and migrants. In light of this, in light of this scenario, its institutions have the duty to promote programs and policies that lead to actions aimed at combating discrimination. Failing to do so by omission would contribute to its perpetration. It invites us to recognize under the guidance of Socrates, that a life without examination is not worth living because it is not truly human. Therefore, if we seek to bring about change in the actions and attitudes of society regarding the discrimination of the aforementioned social groups, it is essential to transform the mindset of those who engage in such behavior, eliminating the prejudice that provoke it. So, we have a institution that makes a survey that is called ENADIS. It was made in 2022. It can tell us that three groups stand out in both historically and structurally discrimination. They are the indigenous people, they are the Afro-Mexicans and migrants. So, in this scenario, in light of this, in light of this scenario, institutions have the duty to promote programs and policies that leads us to actions aimed at combating discrimination. So, if we are democratic, if we want every people to participate in politics, institutions have to pay attention. They have to um, do something. They have to do something against discrimination at in that objective that combats the discrimination. Otherwise, and failing to do so by omission, they would contribute to its perpetuation. Now, also this 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 also this scenario invites us to recognize that a life without examination is not worth living, and that's a Socrates phrase I like a lot because it's that true. If you don't become a critical human, then your life is not worth living. It's not worth living to be. It's not worth living. So it's important that we seek to bring about change into in in the actions and attitudes of society. Now, this is something that many people try to do. We see a lot of literature about or in combat with discrimination, but I think that the interesting part here is that Rosero. Let me give you more about this. We have who knows who is in fights against discrimination. all institutions, a lot of institutions here in Mexico. Let me ask, how many institutions nationally and internationally in Mexico we have against discrimination in Mexico? Let me tell you here, okay? Mexico has a significant framework of institutions and laws aimed at combating discrimination, both nationally and through its engagement with international bodies. It's difficult to give an exact number as it includes direct government agencies, a vast number of civil society organizations, and international organizations. Like CONAPRED, we have the National Council to Prevent Discrimination, we have COPRED, Council to Prevent and Eliminate Discrimination in Mexico City. We have also the CNDH, the National Human Rights Commission. So it's basically we have a lot of institutions that we have a large and significant framework of institutions and laws that aimed at combating discrimination. However, how do they do? What is what? Where are they? What's their foundation? I think that they are mostly liberal. They are mostly coming from a liberalism, from a liberal position, and what they think they are, what they think and what they think they are doing the right thing, maybe they are not. Why? Because there is a huge and deep prejudice. The most prejudice of the prejudice, that is the way we think and the way we do science. Okay, now regarding the discrimination of the aforementioned social groups, it is essential to transform the mindset. This is so important. This is the thesis. It is essential to transform the mindset of those who engage in such behavior, eliminating prejudice that provoke it. I would say a lot of people are part of this prejudice because we have a structural prejudice. Now, this is one of the objectives from these institutions, from these national and international institutions. What is the objective? To ensure equal treatment for all people. To ensure equal treatment for all people. It is crucial to develop educational models, programs, and teaching learning strategies that promote positive appreciation and respect for cultural diversity. Of course, there is one more time a large literature of educational models, programs, and teaching learning. And let me tell you what, Alexa, I don't have Alexa, Alex and Gemini. No, ChatGPT. Tell me some models, educational models, programs, and teaching learning strategies that promote appreciation and respect for cultural diversity, and some others that combat discrimination. And here you have models and programs promoting cultural diversity. And we have a lot of them. And model and programs combating discrimination, anti-bias education. We have Luz Zerman Sparks, who addresses identity, diversity, justice, and activism. We have also a social justice education that encourages students to critically examine power structures and inequality. And we have a restorative justice practices in education, who addresses harm caused by discrimination or exclusion through dialogue and community repair and community repair. At the Associated Schools Network, we have something that promotes peace, intercultural dialogue, and sustainable development. Now, we have a lot of literature. We have a lot of books, a lot of articles that aim at combating combating discrimination. So what is the difference from this book? What is the difference? This book aims to provide basic education teachers with with a systematic philosophical reflection of the origins of discrimination. That's the thesis. This book aims to provide basic education teachers with a systematic philosophical reflection to the origins of discrimination. This is the methodology. This is the place where it is taking place. The intention behind these pages is that those who have the noble task of educating children and adolescents abandon the harmful prejudices that only the Western lifestyle and worldview are valid. For me, it is just one of the best, the most deepest, and the deepest prejudice that we are hearing. And instead genuinely commit themselves to intercultural education. Its originality lies in the innovative strategy it proposes for intercultural education, the analysis of mythical narratives of indigenous and Afro-descendant peoples. Now, how how would you do that? How would how would we do that? We will analyze mythical narratives and indigenous and Afro-descendant peoples. But before, we need to analyze, we need to examine and make a theoretical framework just to analyze the issue is decolonial thought. Decolonial thought. This decolonial thought comes from the past, from authors like I have the Here it is. We have the word coloniality, coloniality at large, Latin American post-colonial debate.
To debate.
Debate.
To debate.
Debate. Debate. Post-colonial debate. Coloniality at large, Latin America, and the post-colonial debate. Okay. And this has a lot of articles about colonial encounters, decolonization and cultural agency, rewriting colonial difference, Occidentalism, globalization, and the geopolitics of knowledge. We have Walter Mignolo, the geopolitics of knowledge and the colonial difference. We have Aníbal Quijano, coloniality of power, Eurocentrism in Latin America. We have Santiago Castro Gomez, post-coloniality for dummies, Latin America perspectives on modernity, coloniality, and the geopolitics knowledge. Religion, liberation, and the narratives of secularism. Comparative post-colonial. We have a lot of things, and let me just read you some about this book. We have Latin America, Otherwise, Languages, Empires, Nations is a critical series. It aims to explore the emergence and consequences of concepts used to define Latin America, while at the same time exploring the broad interplay of political, economic, and cultural practices that have shaped Latin American worlds. Latin America, at the crossroads of competing imperial designs and local responses, has been construed as a geocultural and geopolitical entity since the 19th century. That's so fucking amazing. I like it a lot. So I'm so sorry, guys. Okay. It says Latin America. It aims to explore the emergence and consequences of concepts used to define Latin America, while at the same time exploring the broad interplay of political, economic, and cultural practices that shaped Latin America. Latin America at the crossroads of competing imperial designs and local responses has been construed as a geocultural and geopolitical entity since the 19th century. I like this. At the crossroads of competing imperial designs and local responses. This series provides a starting point to redefine Latin America as a configuration of political, linguistic, cultural, and economic intersections that demands a continuous reprisal of the role of the Americans in history and of the ongoing process of globalization and the recall and the relocation of people and cultures that have characterized Latin America's experience. Is a forum that confronts established geocultural constructions, rethinks area studies, and disciplinary boundaries, assesses convictions of the academia and public policy, and correspondingly demands that the practices through which we produce knowledge and understanding about them from Latin America be subject to rigorous and critical scrutiny, featuring a variety of disciplinary and ideological perspectives from internationally recognized scholars working in Anglo-American, Latin American, European universities. Coloniality at large connects a state-of-the-art view connects a state-of-the-art view of the post-colonial debate to issues in the field of Latin American studies. Okay, what is this about? Featuring a variety of disciplinary and ideological perspectives from internationally recognized scholars working in Anglo-American, Latin American, and European universities. This book connects a state-of-the-art view of the post-colonial debate to issues. Mm. In the field of Latin American studies, it offers a thorough, it offers a thorough, 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 thorough,
Thorough.
thorough,
Thorough.
thorough. It offers a thorough examination of the contributions and inequalities of the concept of postcoloniality for Latin American studies, and its contributors differ many occasions about the merits of the term in the Latin American context. By focusing on the dissemination of colonial and new colonial practices that interweave with emancipatory and nationalist projects during the period of nation formation and modernization in the Spanish and Portuguese ex-colonies, with emancipatory and nationalist projects during the periods of nation formation and modernization in Spanish and Portuguese ex-colonies. Coloniality at large documents and analyzes the impact that colonialism has had on the construction of power relations, collective subjectivities, and cultural political projects in Latin America. The editors have gathered seminal studies, many in English for the first time, and new works produced for this project. The essays address ways in which colonialism in Latin America, the oldest colonial system in the West, differ from its later expressions in the 19th and 20th centuries by reescribing a notion of holy war and the vision of the colonized as a tabula rasa in which the principle of Western morality should be written. Mm. The editors have gathered. Okay. The vision of the colonized as double arrest. Okay. Similarly, this volume examines the special conditions governing the distribution of power between metropolitan and vernacular entities, a creolization of power that distinguish the Latin American case. The special conditions governing the distribution of power between metropolitan and vernacular elites. Other studies discuss the critique of Occidentalism and modernity that is inseparable from the colonial project and analyze the political, social, and cultural practices that resist imperialism. With special attention to the topics of violence, identity, otherness, memory, heterogeneity, heterogene- hetero, heterogeneity, 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 and language. And, and in analyzing resistance, this collection discusses the marginalized imaginaries, the alternative epistemology, and the surviving and emerging subjectivities that have resulted from colonialism. It also focuses on the roles intellectuals have played from the construction of the Creole cultural and historical archive to the agrarian practices associated with the process of independence and the foundation of national states. Wow. Okay. The theoretical framework used to analyze the issue is the decolonial thought. This approach reveals that discrimination against indigenous stems from a Eurocentric view of reality, one that discredits any form of existence that does not replicate the Western interpretation of reality, its vision of humanity, and its notions of knowledge and truth, labeling it, labeling, labeling it as inferior, primitive, and uncivilized. In order to show that myth is an original discourse where each people's worldview is expressed, giving meaning to the presence of everything in the world, we turn to the work of Mircea Eliade. In doing so, it will become clear that myth is neither proto-science nor pseudoscience, but rather a religious manifestation that sheds light on the fundamental questions of existence. From this, it follows that to understand the identity of a social group, one must interpret its mythologies. Regarding the structure of the book, the first section, need and conditions of possibility, begins with a general overview of discrimination faced by indigenous people of African descent. Okay, next, it is argued thorough,
thorough,
thorough, thorough.
argued,
argued. From this it follows that to understand the identity of such a group, one must interpret its mythologies regarding the structure of the book. The first section, Tor, argued,
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 toward, toward,
Tor, toward,
Toward. 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 Toward.
toward, 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 toward,
Toward. Toward.
toward,
The schwa and a W, toward, without a schwa, toward, without a W, toward. And that's how I like to pronounce it because it's the easiest pronunciation.
toward,
All right, toward. We begin with
Toward.
a T sound, and
Toward.
since it's the beginning, it's a strong aspirated T. So it feels like there is a little H after. And then it's the
Toward.
or as in for,
toward,
toward, toward.
toward,
Now, the or
Toward.
vowel is a
toward.
diphthong. So you
Toward. Okay, regarding the structure of the book, the first section, toward intercultural education, needs and conditions of possibility, begins with a general overview of discrimination faced by indigenous people of African descent and Latin American migrants in Mexico. Next, it is argued that discrimination is a problem rooted in the coloniality of power. Discrimination is a problem rooted in the coloniality of power, which is constitutive of the modern spirit. Thirdly, in order to highlight self-perceived discrimination, 3 testimonies are presented from studies of the Faculty of Humanities at La Salle University, who belong to one of the aforementioned social groups. It is then shown that the mere substitution of the concept of race with that of ethnicity does not constitute a real solution to the problem of racism, since both are constructs of colonial ideology. Finally, after demonstrating the need to move from coloniality to the colonization, to the colonization of being acknowledged, the argument is made in favor of reforming the educational system so that it ceases to be a space that reproduces coloniality and becomes instead a learning community aimed at achieving intercultural education. The second section of reforming the educational system so that it ceases to be a space that reproduces coloniality and becomes instead a learning community aimed at achieving intercultural education. The second section of the book, A Colonizing Gaze on the Worldviews, highlights the essential features of myth, cosmogonic, anthropogonic, theogonic, and foundational. And foundational has the worldview matrix of a people. It then defends the thesis that interpreting the mythologies of non-hegemonic
Hegemonic.
of non-hegemonic cultures is a privileged strategy of decolonizing pedagogy. He then defends the thesis that interpreting the mythologies of non-hegemonic cultures is a privileged strategy of decolonizing pedagogy. Finally, in order to bring the reader closer to the Maya, Aztec, and Yoruba worldviews, several mythical narratives are analyzed. Stories about the origin of the universe, of humankind, of the people themselves, as well as the gods and various natural phenomena and elements. The philosophical reflection intended in this work arises from a transformative social commitment. The aim is to show that when one truly understands the identity of a people, discrimination disappears. The aim is to show that when one truly understands the identity of a people, discrimination disappears. But in such a case, rather than rejecting those who hold a different understanding of the world, a genuine interest in intercultural dialogue emerges. And that's it. So bye bye.